Right, so today I wanted to talk a little bit more about Bitcoin, and this is from Bitcoin Archive saying Visa CEO, Bitcoin could become extremely mainstream within 5 years. And that's very good news for anyone holding Bitcoin. And I wanted to talk about this for various amount of reasons. And um, I don't think people I mean, the people in the space, but the people outside the space, I don't think they realize just how much potential this has because um, I mean, when it comes to people who aren't in the crypto space, the problem with them, it's just a pure lack of understanding of it. They they seem to think that, I mean, there's various reasons, right? There's the people think, oh, it's a scam, which obviously it isn't. Um, it's a bubble, which obviously it isn't. Um, it's what are the other things they say? Um, Though those are basically the big things they say from the outside, or they'll say, oh, it's just a get rich quick scheme, or it's a pump and dump scheme, which clearly I don't think it is either. I mean, you could make the argument, but um, given the amount of institutional money that's in it, I don't see that. I mean, you look at MicroStrategy, I think their average price paid on they've made a lot. I mean, I don't know what their average price paid is, but I know they've made quite a bit off their Bitcoin, but they haven't sold any. So again, I don't think that. And Michael Saylor's the guy that basically convinced Elon Musk to put some Tesla money in it. So again, like it's a pump and dump scheme. That argument doesn't make any sense either. And if it's a pump and dump, well, where's the dump? Right? It's gone up what 500% over the last year or so, something around there. I think it's even a little more actually because I think it bottomed at about, I mean, it was about 10,000 last year Canadian, so we're looking at 700% actually, roughly. So again, like if it's a pump and dump, well, where's the dump? Right now there has been some corrections, but nothing major. I mean, in technical purposes, yes, but for Bitcoin, no. Like a 20% drop, a 30% drop, that's nothing major. If you look back to the 2017 bull run, I think there was like six 30% corrections and eight 20, or I guess two more at least in the 20s. So that is how Bitcoin works. And people, well, the other thing people say now that I come to think about it is, oh, it's too volatile, right? It's too volatile. Well, that's only the case because Bitcoin has an actual free market, right? The only reason people think of the dollar as quote unquote not being volatile or stable is because it's so heavily manipulated, right? So, and not to mention too, like, why is volatile a bad thing? If you look back over the last 50 years of the best performing stocks, of the best performing mutual funds, right? They're all the most volatile ones. Like I was reading the other day about how um, it was Peter Lynch is the I forget what it was called, but it was the best performing mutual fund of all time, I believe. And but still, like half of people who bought into it lost money. And why is that? Is because it was very volatile. People would get in near the top, and it would go down, right? It would go down more than people were comfortable, and they'd sell off. They'd wait for it to go up a lot again and then buy in, and then it would go down and they'd panic and sell, right? But if they would have just held the whole time, they would have made like I think it was like 25% a year or something crazy like that. And it's the same thing with Bitcoin. It's like people talk all the time about, oh, should I try and trade it? Should I, how should I get in? And at the end of the day, like, when should you sell? All of that stuff. It's like just get in. Like just and the other thing people say too is, oh, should I try and buy some altcoins? Like eh, personally again, like do whatever you want. Again, I'm no expert, not financial advice, any of that stuff, but personally, I don't see why you would want to do all that stuff if it's going to add that much more of a headache, add that much more of an effort. Like Bitcoin is average, I think it's 200% return per year. Now, obviously during the year, that's a little misleading because during the early days it was going up, insane amounts in the mainly the first bull run. I think, the big bull runs, right? Because there's years where Bitcoin has lost money, right? Um, this year obviously going up 700%, but let's just say like is it really worth like, and this is the other thing too, that the people think, oh, Bitcoin, it's risky, right? The altcoins are even more risky than Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is the least risky of the cryptos, at least at this moment. Um, so like, is it really worth making 205% or 210%, even 220%, but with added risk, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, so that doesn't make any sense. But getting to the main point here, become extremely mainstream. Now, what do they mean by that? Well, I mean, that's probably anyone's guess, but extremely mainstream in that eventually I think you're going to be able to buy things with it. The one problem with Bitcoin at this moment is that it's not really set up very well for small transactions, but any transactions in the hundreds of dollars, especially thousands of dollars, I think you're going to be able to use, now, maybe not directly, you may have to convert it back and forth to fiat, but someone will come up with a way of making that very convenient and very easy and do it for very little, if any, fees. Right? And the other thing I really think is stupid, I mean, I understand it, but in the crypto space, people argue about it. Oh, well, should I use this platform or that platform? This one charges a 1% fee, and this one charges a 1.2% fee, like, or 1.5%. Like, who cares? Like, Bitcoin's going up 200% a year. Like, what difference does it make if you make 198% return or 200? Like, who cares? Right? Like, it's not worth. And this the other thing too is I think a lot of people, it keeps them from getting into it because of worrying about, like, at the end of the day, like, what I would like looking back on, that's one of the things that held me back too, right? Uh, so I would just say, oh, just get in, like, just get in and figure things out and then go from there, right? Because whenever you're new to these spaces, it's like you don't really know what you're doing. And if you can make the mistakes earlier rather than later, that's just going to make you make that much more money in the long run, right? So that's what I would say, is just get in. Um, but yeah, Bitcoin, I do think it will become extremely mainstream. I think we're going to see a point, and by extremely mainstream, he may very well also mean, I think this is something we're going to see sooner rather than later as well. I mean, number one, we already have ETFs in Canada. We have ETFs in a bunch of other countries. There's multiple ETFs that are pending approval by the SEC. I mean, that's going to be something that, I mean, it's only a matter of time, given the amount of other countries that approve them. Once a Bitcoin ETF is approved in the States, I think that'll cause the price to go up probably 10, 20%. Um, the other big thing that's going to happen is, um, basically every big company is going to have at least a portion, whether it's 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%. Um, it'll probably be in that 1 to 10%. You'll have the outliers like the micro strategies that have like 90% of their money in Bitcoin. But when that happens, again, that's going to cause, I think, even if for all the Fortune 500 put 1%, I think that would cause the price to go up like 40, 50,000 US. And that's 1%, right? And that's not even including like foreign companies, right? Like companies in Europe, companies in China, companies across the world, right? Um, and then eventually you're also going to see pension funds, right? What happens when pension funds put 1, 2% in? Then it's going to be financial advisors saying, yeah, yeah, 1, 2%. And once we have ETFs, right, it's very easy to do it, right? You can do it without even having to get a hardware wall or download an app, right? Um, and then not to mention too, like, the more it goes up, like, and then like you could have, like I say, Visa could say, oh yeah, we're going to accept payment in it now, or we're going to allow something that would make it go up even more is if they allowed merchants to accept payment in it, right? So That's when they say it could become extremely mainstream within 5 years. That's what they mean, right? That's what they mean. Now, from their perspective, obviously being Visa, it's going to be we're going to allow merchants to accept payment with it, and we may very well allow you to pay your credit card bill with Visa. Maybe if the fees don't line up, maybe it has to be at least $100 or $500 or whatever, right? But again, most people are spending at least $100 a month on their credit card, right? Um, so that's going to be things we see, and that's going to cause the price to go up a lot, right? And the other thing people are forgetting too is when it comes to Bitcoin too is that the supply of new Bitcoin is constantly getting smaller, right? This is something that makes it very hard for people to understand is because they're so used to the cash system to where money can be printed by snapping your fingers or by, I mean, in reality, it's typing numbers into bank accounts basically. Um, but they don't understand is that Bitcoin, that's not how it works. And this is part of the reason why the price is going up so much. It's not entirely more people are buying it. It's also because the supply of new Bitcoin is constantly going down. And eventually it's going to get to the point to where the supply is actually declining, right? Because the amount of new Bitcoin available to be mined goes down every 5 years. It's cut in half every 5 years. Or is it 4 years? I forget. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing nonetheless. And eventually it's going to get to the point where there's no new ones. But I think that's like 120 years away, so it's not something we have to worry about. But the other thing too is that Bitcoin are also lost on a regular basis, right? People send it to an address that isn't a Bitcoin address. People have it saved on a hard drive. They lose the hard drive. You hear that all the time. Um, Lots of ways people lose Bitcoin. So that's the other thing too, is that part of the reason why it's going up so much is because the supply is going down, right? That's something people really need to understand that, and this is part of the reason why when people say, "Oh no, it's going to crash" or any of that kind of stuff, they don't seem to understand that. They seem to think of it as comparable to cash, right? So yeah, I just wanted to bring this up because again, it's more good news for the Bitcoin holders of the world that I do think it's only a matter of time, right? It's only a matter of time until pensions funds are putting money in it. Financial advisors are advising to put a small percentage in it. Only a matter of time until, again, all the big companies have a percentage in it. It's only a matter of time, right? So the whole point I'm trying to get across is that I'm simply warning people that it's probably, again, personally my opinion. I'm not saying that again, I'm no expert, but um, it's probably a good idea to get in sooner rather than later, right? So anyway, that's basically what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms if you haven't already. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. Again, I would very much appreciate whatever support I can get. But like I said, at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.